Anderson Cooper, AC 360, CNN weeknights 10 Eastern.
Representative Berman, you've said this bill is needed because, and I quote, we have a president who the American people don't know whether he was born in Kenya or some other place. Do you personally believe that President Obama was not born in Hawaii?
Well, you know, I really don't know. If you look at my white hair, you can tell I've been around for a while. And I've known everything about every president that I've come across for the last 70-some-odd years. I don't know anything about President Obama. I wish I did.
How can you
say that? But there's
that?
Nothing to prove.
How can you say that, though? Because, I mean, there is a birth certificate. There's a certificate of live birth, which is what the state of Hawaii sends out. We're showing a picture of it to our viewers. It's got a raised seal. It's got the stamp of the health register from the state. Why isn't that good enough?
Well, because it's not an original birth certificate. It doesn't show the parent's place of birth. And also, we know for certain that President Obama's father was born in Kenya. Since he was born in Kenya, that was a British protectorate. President Obama was born in 1961. And with his father being a British citizen, at least President Obama, we think, holds dual citizenship.
Well, actually, technically, that's not correct. He may have been born with dual citizenship because of the technicality of his father being under the British subject, being from Kenya, but he automatically lost that at the age of 23, as anybody does. And to say that document is not to say that it's the way it happened. To say that document, though, is not the original birth certificate, that is what the state sends out when anybody asks for a birth certificate from the state of Hawaii, and it's accepted by the U.S. State Department as valid for a U.S. passport. And the Hawaii State Health Director has acknowledged that back in 2008, she has, and I quote, personally seen and verified that the Hawaii State Department of Health has Senator Obama's original birth certificate on record in accordance with state policies and procedures.
Well, you mentioned the State Department. Now, let's talk about the State Department.
But no, first, do you not acknowledge that the state of Hawaii has the original birth certificate? The health director there says it. The governor of Hawaii says this is not an issue. The governor of Hawaii, who's a Republican, was quoted as saying, I had my health director, who's a physician by background, go personally view the birth certificate in the birth records of the Department of Health. We issued a news release at the time saying the president was, in fact, born at Kapiolani Hospital in Honolulu, Hawaii, and that is just a fact. Is she lying?
Well, my question to you then, Anderson, is why did you see it? I'd like to see it.
Well, you can go and see it. The nonpartisan fact-checking organization, factcheck.org, they looked at it. It has a raised seal. They say it's legit.
A raised seal can be put on by any type of machinery, but what I'm saying is, where are the president's passports? Where are his travel documents? Where are his school records? Why don't we know anything at all about a president who has such a radical agenda? There is a radical agenda, and I'd like to know something about the President of the United States.
Well, let me ask you
the state
about
of
that,
Hawaii.
because have you seen George W. Bush's transcripts from college?
I could see anything I want from George W. Bush.
Actually,
I can go
sir,
right online and get it. Yes.
No, actually, sir, you couldn't.
Yes.
Under federal law, you're not. The schools cannot release that information. And President Bush refused to release that information from Andover and from his time at Yale. Someone actually leaked the Yale records illegally, but actually he refused to release them. But, sir, again, you haven't answered any of the facts on this, which I've brought up to you. The state of Hawaii has.
You haven't.
The state of Hawaii, for a fact, has verified the original birth certificate is there. If you request one, as the Obama campaign did, what they are sent is the certificate of live birth. It's the short form. It's what they send out. Hawaii does not send out the long form. Yet, for some reason, in this man's case, it's not acceptable to you.
Well, let's say it is acceptable to me. Now, let's get on to another point. Where are the president's passports and his travel records, which got him to Pakistan in the early 90s, when no U.S. citizen could get to Pakistan at all?
Sir, where'd you hear that?
Where are his college records?
Sir, where'd you hear
Why
that?
can't we see anything?
Sir, where did you hear that?
We can't see any personal documents about this president.
Sir, I don't mean to contradict you. I respect you, and I respect certainly your service to this country, but where do you get your information? Because that what you just said is factually incorrect.
I'm getting my information the same place you're getting your information.
Okay.
I want to see a passport.
How do you know that the president traveled to Pakistan, what did you say, in the late 90s, late 80s?
I think late 80s, early 90s. That's common knowledge. Everybody knows he traveled to Pakistan. He had a passport when U.S. citizens couldn't travel to Pakistan.
Sir, he traveled to Pakistan.
So what country did he?
He traveled to Pakistan in 1981, and when he was a student, and actually Americans could travel to Pakistan then. In fact, we have an article from the New York Times from 1981 from the travel section about the joys of traveling in Pakistan. You needed American citizens. I think they needed a 30-day visa, but American citizens could go and travel in Pakistan. That's just an internet rumor that you're spreading.
No, it's not an internet rumor that I'm spreading. I'm sorry, it's not.
Barack Obama went to Pakistan in 1981 when Americans could go there. It is an internet rumor that Americans couldn't travel there, and you had your dates completely wrong. You're saying the early 90s.
I've got a report here from the Congressional Research Service and their legislative attorney, Jack Maskill, and there's a lot of good information here. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm asking for simple information about the President of the United States.
So is his travel to Pakistan in the Congressional Research Service information there?
Yes. The major news media will not answer any of these questions. Why won't you put this out?
Sir, I'm asking for where you got that information.
Why won't you show us the long birth certificate or the passport? And why didn't the United States Congress, we have 535 members of the United States Congress, they are the only body of the federal government and a Constitution that really should be vetting the President of the United States.
Okay.
Because they take an oath of office in which they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and they will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God.
Sir, again, just
not a single member of the United States Congress raised their hand when they were counting the electoral votes in 2008 to say, show us.
Sir, just
I
of
the
points you have raised, the factual points I mean, you're basing legislation on stuff that's basically just rumors and stuff that's been proven to be false. I mean, you say that President Obama didn't release college records. That's true. He hasn't released college records. But under federal law, the schools can't release them. And he doesn't want to for whatever reason. And you know what? George W. Bush didn't want to for whatever reason, from Andover and from Yale. You didn't seem to object about that. You've raised medical records, that he didn't fully release his medical records. We know what John McCain didn't fully release his medical records either. They both did in a very limited amount of way.
Am I wrong when I say that the President has employed many lawyers and is spending millions of dollars to keep all these records?
Well, actually, sir, we don't know exactly what he spent the money. First of all, I'm not sure it's millions. I think the record I saw was 1-point-something million. And we don't know that the bulk of the work that the lawyer, the law firm he's obtained is directed to this. He's certainly being sued by a couple of people, and those lawsuits have gone nowhere. And yes, he's paying lawyers for that, but we don't know if all that money has gone for that. We just factually don't know that, so we can't say what exactly.
Have the major media actually gone into an investigative mode to see if the President?
Sir, this has been looked at
really
for years and years, and no court has supported this. Most legitimate, observers of this, most people in the country have moved on from this and say, look, the President is a United States citizen.
Oh, I don't think most people have moved on. I think either 50%, even CNN polls have shown that 50 to 60% of the people of the United States do not believe that the President is eligible to be holding that office.
Sir, I'm sorry
That's your own CNN polls.
All right, sir.
Now.
Okay, I have the CNN poll right here. I hate to keep reading this stuff. The CNN poll from July 16th to 21, all Americans. Question, was Barack Obama born in the U.S.? The number of Americans who said definitely or probably, the percentage was 71%. Definitely or probably no, 27%. So according to this poll, if you believe this poll, 71% of Americans believe probably or definitely that Barack Obama was born in the United States. Admittedly, 27% who don't believe it, that's a lot. That's a big number. But again, just factually, you haven't shown me any fact that proves he's not, and you haven't been able to answer anything, any direct thing about the facts that you brought up that have been wrong.
May I say that no major media has shown me any facts either? I'll give you my public mailing address, and you can send me the facts if you'd like to, but no one will send me the facts. Okay. The State Department, the public media, the major media, I haven't seen anything yet, and I'd like to see it. And I do extensive reading.
How much of this is purely about politics? Because look, you are a good person and you've served your country remarkably in the military and you're a public servant now, but you're basing legislation on things which have been disproven. And you've said in the past, you said, and I quote, "I believe that Barack Obama is God's punishment on us today." Is this just about politics, that you don't like this guy and therefore you're raising these objections about him?
Well, it's a lot more than politics. Like you said, I did serve my country, and there is a lieutenant colonel who will be court-martialed in mid-December for refusing an order from a president who he believes is not the commander-in-chief of the United States military forces. We also have a case in the U.S. Supreme Court. I think it was started either yesterday or today, based on the same information that we're discussing right now.
But so far, the Supreme Court has batted down attempts to get. I mean, all courts have rejected these arguments. This is going nowhere other than in a few state legislatures.
Well, it's in the Supreme Court today, isn't it? Have they already completed the case?
It got thrown out. They're not going to take it.
Was that today?
Yeah, that was today.
Because I was listening for it.
Yeah, no, that was today.
Okay, I didn't hear. I'll have to check on that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. If you could send us the Congressional Research Service document you have that talks about then young Mr. Obama traveling to Pakistan with the dates you gave us, I'd appreciate it if you send it to us. Leo Berman, Representative Leo Berman, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Very much, Anderson.
Well, Representative Berman, as we mentioned, we asked him to send us the copy of the Congressional Research Service report that he mentioned. We talked about Pakistan. He didn't send us the report itself, which we actually found it on our own. And when you read through it, it actually concludes that the doubts that have been raised about the president's citizenship really don't hold water. That's what the Congressional Research Service report concluded. Instead, what Representative Berman sent us, what he was actually talking when he cited the CRS report, was actually a critique of that report by a blogger. And in the critique that Mr. Berman sent us, the blogger actually made no mention of President Obama's travel to Pakistan. We did our own research. We found another article by the same blogger which did mention then Barack Obama's travels to Pakistan in 1981. That much was correct. The blogger, however, said that Mr. Obama could not have used a U.S. passport for that trip because Pakistan was on the United States no-travel list in 1981. That's just not true. An American could get a 30-day visa to travel in Pakistan in 1981, and that fact is easy for anyone to check.